Since last night, 4 tankers have been attacked in the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian regime is being systematically decimated, so economic warfare is their last resort. The Iranians clipping the ships with unmanned drones and small rocket fire, doing small amounts of damage, but just enough to rattle the insurance underwriters and slow down oil flow. A senior White House official tells Axios, quote, "The Iranians effing around with the Strait makes Trump more dug in." Oil spiked on the news, and Brent crude closed around $100 a barrel.
We're going to be in very good shape. You see what's happening. They are pretty much at the end of the line. Doesn't mean we're going to end it immediately, but they've got no Navy, they've got no Air Force, they've got no anti-air traffic, anything. They have no systems of control. We're just riding free range over that country. And now we're going to look very strongly at the Straits.
We reopened the Strait before, in the 80s, during the tanker wars, when Iraq was doing battle with Iran. Fortunately, today, we're in good hands. Former CIA Director General Petraeus explains why.
How wonderful that we actually have an admiral in charge of U.S. Central Command instead of soldiers like me or Marines like some of the others. He knows this strait. He's been through it innumerable times. He knows they were ready for this.
CENTCOM Commander Brad Cooper's already sunk Iran's Navy, but they still have the Mosquito fleet, little speedboats. They're a pest in the Gulf. Some are loaded up with rockets and drones. They haven't yet, but Iran can also mine the strait. Mines can either be anchored to the seabed or moored on a chain and can detonate over 250 pounds of explosives. We've already sank 30 Iranian mine-laying seacraft, but the Iranians have mobile surface-to-ship missile batteries on the coastline. So the United States is going to have to strike Iranian ports and pacify any aggression on the shore. That's going to take a couple of weeks. Right now, the thinking is we can do it without boots on the ground. And while that happens, the U.S. Navy and others could provide convoys for the tankers.
Is it your belief that the volume of ships going through the Strait of Hormuz will be improving immediately from now?
It is my belief that as soon as it is militarily possible, the U.S. Navy, perhaps with an international coalition, will be escorting vessels through.
We're hearing the British Navy might get off the sidelines and help the Americans punch open the strait. The Japanese could lend a hand, too. Their Navy's top-notch, and they get almost all their oil from the Gulf. The question is, when's it open? Here's the Energy Secretary.
Do you think by the end of this month, the U.S. Navy will be escorting some of those ships through the strait?
I think that, yes. I think that is quite likely the case. But again, I mean, I'll be over at the Pentagon later today, but that is what the military is working on. And yes, a lot of critical materials come out of the Straits of Hormuz.
It's not just oil that flows out of the strait, fertilizer, aluminum. The longer it's closed, the more prices for everything jump. The White House has it under control. Officials tell Axios this: no one's panicking, but it's a concern. He's pulling out the stops. There's plenty of oil. It's just getting it on the market. That's the thing. We just announced a release of 172 million barrels of oil from the U.S. Strategic Reserve, and that should help lower prices at the pump.
Can you give us a timeline on when you're planning to tap the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, a timeline of when that could happen?
We're going to be doing it very quickly, and then we'll fill it up. We'll fill up our reserves.
The goal is to open the strait, finish the mission, and have gas prices back down to $2 a gallon well before the midterms. But the enemy gets a say. Economic terrorism is the regime's last bit of leverage. What's left of their intel branches say controlling the strait gives them power over the global economy, and they're hoping Trump folds. But the president just busted out his economic toolbox. He's backstopping the insurance markets, lifting oil sanctions, invoking the Defense Production Act and the Jones Act, which is going to shave about 10 cents off every gallon of gas. But Operation Epic Fury can't be considered a success if we don't take full control of the strait. This is a major test of the president's resolve. It's only been a week and a half, and we've already killed the Ayatollah, his top brass, knocked out their Navy, Air Force, most of their missiles. But we still have a little more work to do dealing with the drones, hitting their defense industrial base and targeting the Army, militia, police, and the Guard. The president said the operation should take 4 to 6 weeks and that we're ahead of schedule. So far, the United States has only suffered 7 casualties. And God bless those brave souls. But there's no debate who's in control.
Most people say it's already been won. It's just a question of when. When do we stop? We can hit sections of Tehran and other places that, if you do it, it'll be almost impossible for them to rebuild their country. And we don't want that. But we can hit electric, we could take apart their electric capacity within 1 hour, and it would take them 25 years to rebuild it.
We don't want to have to hit civilian infrastructure because we don't have a beef with the Iranian people. We want the country to be able to rebuild easily when the war's over and take their country back. But the regime leftovers are launching indiscriminate attacks against Middle Eastern neighborhoods and banks, refineries, even American consulates. Imagine they had a nuclear weapon. It's exactly why we're in this when we are. The president thinks the IRGC are like the Gestapo and believes they haven't been punished enough. In the past hours, they've been using cluster bombs.
First responders are here at a scene in Tel Aviv where an Iranian cluster munition exploded after it was launched in the latest ballistic missile barrage. You can see the amount of rubble and debris here. First responders say multiple people are being treated with shrapnel injuries, and there are at least a dozen impact sites.
This regime doesn't care who it kills. It's just out for blood. They're cornered and want to wreak havoc on the neighborhood to fracture the alliance. And Ayatollah Jr., well, his whole family was taken out, so he wants a taste of revenge. We haven't seen him since they crowned him supreme leader, but today, someone allegedly on his behalf smuggled a statement through to Iranian state TV. Listen.
I assure everyone that we will not refrain from avenging the blood of your martyrs. The revenge we have in mind does not concern only the martyrdom of the great leader of the revolution. Rather, every member of the nation who is killed by the enemy constitutes a separate case in the file of retribution.
Little Ayatollah has to sound tough so the population doesn't start a revolution. But reports say he's wounded, hiding in a hospital underground. Other reports say he's in a coma and might have lost a leg. It's kind of like the Biden situation. You don't really know who's running the country. So how weak is the regime? Hard to say. Trump's told the Iranian people to stay down. It's too dangerous outside. But when it is time and the smoke clears, to take back your country. A source tells Axios that there are going to be efforts to unleash forces inside of Iran and re-energize the population to topple the regime. But we have no idea if that's possible or what that even looks like or how long that could even take. And the Iranians are still sitting on some uranium they squirreled away after Operation Midnight Hammer. That's too dangerous to leave in their hands. They're highly motivated to nuke up as fast as they can because it's their only defense. That makes Pickaxe Mountain, Iran's fortified underground facility, a major target. It needs to be secured, and that could require special forces at a later date. So there's some unfinished business in Iran, uranium, Strait, Ayatollah Jr., and more military targets. The commander-in-chief seems patient and resolute, sensitive to the markets, and ready to see the mission through. The United States cannot let a Chinese terror proxy control oil flow. Now, if we win this war in Iran, we win the war against China. It's that simple. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.